keep saying. I'm like, that's the reason. And then it
Aw.
just wants me to not be so vain. So it's like, I've noticed in every one of my Zoom rights, I've been like, oh, I didn't realize how much I look at myself. Because I'm like, oh, people don't
It's
look.
so funny. I've actually been kind of, we never really get to see our own face out in the world until
No.
we have this iPhone. So we have to depend on our friends to tell us how we are.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know,
But I
friends
was
are,
like, oh, it's a good like reminder that I'm like,
yeah,
oh, that's
yeah,
just everything's also temporary and things can change in an instant.
100%.
So, I mean, I'm definitely glad that the burn on my chest is not all over my face.
Yes. Yeah, I'm
But
so sorry you had to go through that. I'm a cook sometimes, and it's like Amelia Bedelia. It just is always burning something.
I was like, don't get distracted by a 7-month-old while working a blender because
Yeah,
accidents happened.
you
So I keep
do.
saying it's my fault, but lesson learned. Lesson learned.
You're doing a
But a
lot. This
towel.
is so cool that you're doing this, and I'm so happy to be talking with you. This is the
I'm
first time I've actually done something like this where I don't have like a mic in my hand. Hello, my man.
yay.
You
I
know?
do love your mic though. I do.
Oh, it's
I,
charging. It's charging as we speak.
oh, see, so you have to do an impromptu later.
Yeah.
I watch you all the time. I'm so thankful that you are taking the time to hold some space with me and hold some space in the light of just the fact that this world and this country is in such divisive, crazy times on, I feel like every level. I feel everybody's being impacted in a different way.
Yeah.
Like some
It,
people, it's more about COVID. Some people is more affected because of the racial stuff. Some people, it's just, work is gone. Like their jobs are gone.
hmm
And I feel you are a light in this. And I've enjoyed how our worlds have come together because of Buxton. And
Absolutely.
she is
He's
one of my
wonderful.
favorite humans. And I know one of your
He
favorite humans. And
is.
I just like to start by saying, like, how are you? Like, I always say, how is your heart?
Well, how long of a time do we have? I could read my journal entry, but Pinterest tells me to share my reality in moderation. So I am going to be respectful as I answer this question. I think that nothing is a coincidence and that this is a historical time and that everything is kind of a gift. I think that this is uh, it's a weird time, especially just for the emotional people that are feeling machines that make a living from music, and it's affecting so many people. Me in my own service here on Earth, I can't touch anyone. I can't even help my friends that have kids because I'm a single girl with no kid. I want to serve, so there's
Yeah.
that emotional constipation, as you
Yeah.
will, with trying to be not in the way, and then also like have purpose.
Yeah.
And this tool that we have, the iPhone, it's just awesome, but it's a disconnected situation because a lot of the things that we see are screenshots, a lot of it's filtered, a lot of it's a trend, a lot of it's just trying to help. And as I say, as I answer, how are you? Every day is different,
Hmm.
and I'm just happy to be a part of the conversation with you. How are you? How is your day going?
Um, I would say I'm heavy today.
Are
Like
you?
I'm working on bringing light, and I try to be hopeful, but I also try to be honest with my energy
Yeah.
and how I feel. And Sunday, when another young man was shot um, by police, um, that hit me hard. It hit me hard, and it's still hitting me hard because I like to think the best of humans. I like to think the best of humanity, and I keep coming against the lack of humanity in our culture. And maybe it's because of COVID and that we're not in each other's physical space that I'm noticing it more. Like it's probably been like this, but it just is. I feel it. And I think also because we're artists, like I feel it so deeply that I'm like, why do lives have to keep getting lost? And why are we filming lives getting lost? And why do we have to film a life getting lost to believe that a life was lost? Like all of these things, and why is there no justice for that? Like where's our morality? So I guess today in the long story, I just feel heavy because I don't feel like as Americans in even to partly to the world that we have a moral compass. I think our moral compass has been broken for a long time, and I'm just so aware of it. Like my rose-colored glasses are so far gone that I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's also like, how do you help? How do you help in a time of COVID and in a time of homeschooling and people looking for work? Like how do we make a change in this new environment that is our new reality for the foreseeable future?
Yeah.
It saddens me. It
Yeah.
saddens me and just saddens me.
There's a grieving definitely going on with all of the stuff that, we've been building in our own ego. I know for me, in my personal experience, just with all the stuff that I've done to try to like be whoever this is, it's
Mm,
it's absolutely just it's a gutted building, and
yeah.
it's a good thing. It needed to be gutted. We're all under construction, and I think that, I mean, I hate to say a pun, but Mr. Rogers is always like, look for the helpers. Look for
Yes.
the, it's very, because we can get so, it's a great feeler myself, as you know. I tend to go on the really sad side of things. But like before
Mm-hmm.
the pandemic, I'm all about being sad. I like E minor chords, sus chords, all the stuff. I work on a sad climate. So here I am in pandemic going, okay, I don't think I can, things can't really get any worse unless I try to make them worse. So I guess I need to like look toward the light, and what can I do just right now? Can I go get some pho? Can I go
Mm-hmm.
like maybe go? It's just because we live in these prisons that we call our bodies, and then we see the world the way that we need to see it based on it's a divided world for
Yeah.
sure. Um, and I don't think that there's a coincidence. I think we're being puppeted big time.
Mm-hmm.
We're
Yeah.
being told a lot of things that I do think that what I'm worried for is I'm worried for the artists and the comedians and the
Mm-hmm.
words as the language is changing, because pain, if we can't interpret it, and you're going to take our words away because someone's offended, like we have to tell our stories. You
Mm-hmm.
have to share your story. I have to
Yeah.
share but we all have this different perspective. But if Dolly Parton like says something and then she's like, it's weird, twist it. I mean, it's a bubble that we live in,
Yeah.
and it's about one-on-one. Jesus had 12 friends.
And people
you
hear and
know
people see snapshots.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think music is such a gift in this time, and I think that you can kind of cope and just keep writing songs and keep writing songs, but I just think that you can say a lot of really weird things with a melody, and you can
Yeah.
wake the dead
Well,
with.
I'm so thankful for music.
Yeah. Are you writing a lot of songs
If I
now?
didn't have if I didn't have music, I'd be going crazy.
Oh yeah,
If
100.
I didn't have friends that were like, let's write a song today, I'm like, okay, let's do it. Also to get out of my own head and to process what's in my head, you know? Like you froze for a minute, but you're back. You're back.
Was it like
Like
this when I froze?
I was like, ooh, look at you drinking a drink. Um, no, I think that it's very important that we all realize that we are in our own selves, and that what we see is based on all of our own experiences in our own self. So everything is tainted by us and by our ego and by our experience. So you can try to show up as well as you can, but know that my experience is different than your experiences, which is different than somebody else's. So to learn empathy and to allow yourself to feel but not to sink. That's what I always say. I'm like, I want to feel but I don't want to sink.
Oh
I don't want to
God,
sink because
that's
I'm not active when I sink. Then
yeah.
I'm then I'm then I feel like I'm being narcissistic. Like I'm like, oh, poor me, poor me. I'm like,
Oh
no,
right.
I want to feel the feelings. I don't want to close off where I don't feel the sadness, but I
Yeah.
don't want it to overwhelm me where I can't use it to propel myself or something else forward.
Mm-hmm.
So like even today, I feel sad. I feel heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a time when I wouldn't acknowledge that. And then that like goes and I'll be like, oh, why was I, what happened to this week? Now I'm more like, okay, I feel sad. I feel heavy. How can I manifest this feeling into something that could help? And right now with COVID, a lot of that is just writing a song or doing one of these because I can't, like, I don't
Which is
feel
so
comfortable
wonderful. I hope
necessarily
you,
doing a lot of other things out in public.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not even in Nashville yet.
Well, you're serving your beautiful niece and your sister. You're taking
I
care of
am.
her, and that's like Mary Poppins, beautiful. That's awesome. I get kind of mad that I don't have any kids and I don't have babies. I have my dog who's sleeping.
You do.
But I when COVID first started, I would watch people walk their kid and go, "Oh my gosh, that's where life stopped." And you have a kid, and I would be like in my window going, "Oh,
Yeah.
you have a kid." It's like we all have our own little stories. But I was listening to this podcast and I was kind of going down into like my own like white privilege and like how I learned how to feel like something's right or wrong or like how
Yeah.
to, and it's like diving down into that world of hearing. This is what I remember as a little girl. I would hear the white guy who was the preacher yell about God, and he had a suit on and he was tall and he was pointing a finger. He had the Bible open, so that just made him right. And I was
Yeah.
like, if that's the kingdom of heaven, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
I
I
don't want
feel
to
you.
go. And so, what I think we're doing as American people, we're kind of going into like our experience of how we feel addicted to power and money and all this stuff, and then breaking down the
Hmm.
history of what Black Lives Matter. So it's all conjoined. It's all very much like a news story. Am I making any sense like
You
whatsoever?
are making sense.
Okay,
You are
good.
making sense. No, I think that what I love about Black Lives Matter, what I love about this awakening
Yeah,
is that it is shifting people. And to shift is uncomfortable.
yeah,
And to take apart what your life is built on and the truths that might not be truths, like you discover with like white privilege. I've had people say, well, I don't have a privilege. I'm like, you do have an advantage by the
yeah,
color of your skin. Now, you might not even be aware of that advantage because you have to also know what disadvantages somebody else has. Like you have to be able to look outside yourself and see, oh, does this happen with somebody else?
yeah,
Like if me and you walked into a bank and if we had the same credit score and the same life, we're similar ages, and we walked in, you would probably get a better rate on a loan even today just because you're white. And
mm,
that's me being light skinned. Like those are things that it doesn't mean it's your fault or it's my fault or anything. Those are just the realities of our country. And I think we're facing the roots of this country and how they were built. And I think COVID has forced us to be still enough to see it.
100%.
Even though it's because it's been there. It's not like
Yeah,
it's new, but nobody's been still because our culture is not to be still.
it's not.
Our culture is to keep going and to keep moving and to stay in our lane and to stay with the few people that we associate with. And now we are forced to be with ourselves
Yeah.
and forced to be with our own thoughts. And
Mm-hmm.
even on social media, everybody's on it. So everybody's posting their thoughts. So you're really seeing where people stand. And I'm like, whoa, I'm
Yeah.
like some people, I'm like, wow, I didn't know you were that. Like,
Yeah. Um, it's a compassion uh, fatigue for me to get on my phone
mm-hmm,
and see where people's treasures are. And, I know probably online people are like, when is she gonna give it up? Like, just chill,
yeah,
I don't know what they think. Who care? I don't really, I'm just trying to be in this thing. I mean, I can't, Nina Simone, so her documentary, when she said to have no fear, that's what freedom is. And if you look at her life story and the fact that she had this white woman believing in her at a very young age, putting her in like piano lessons that elevated her to think way beyond like what the conversation was when she got out of the lesson. Like she had to go, like she just knew so much. So I can understand why she was so bitter. She just knew, because people
Mm-hmm.
would just treat her like she was just, oh, you're just a black girl. Like, but she was like otherworldly. Like she had, and I can't imagine the weight of that. And
Mm-hmm.
she reached a level of spirituality that's why her music is so powerful.
Yes.
It's so powerful. I mean, you can't argue with it. It is the truth. It's the truth. It makes me angry how good she is, because it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Oh,
from pain. That's where she got it from the misunderstanding of everything that she, was or thought she had to be. It's that
yeah.
breakdown.
It's it's sad and it's empowering, kind of both.
One,
When I look
yeah, yeah.
at musicians and I see that they've been elevated, but the reason they're elevated is because their art is so good, because they are in such pain. Like
Yeah.
they're in such pain. So they've created such great art that we connect with, because you connect with the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look and you're like, oh, but you were just in so much pain. And the life you have to lead to do that. Like I think of Etta James, and I'm like, wow, like that emotion, and to live in that time, and to live in a place where you are always thought to not be wise. You are always thought to be ignorant. You are always thought that you don't know anything. So even if you
How
know
does that
anything,
feel
you're
for
not
you?
allowed to say
So as a
that you
woman,
don't
so
know
you're
things.
so you're saying that you walk into a room sometimes and you feel like the face that you see, that when you walk into a room and the face that sees you, you determined from your experience that that person is looking at you as, oh, you're not going to know what I'm talking about. So you play that part.
Yeah,
I do too.
yeah.
Me too.
So you play
It's
the
a
part, and,
hard
and I've
part.
done it a lot in Nashville.
Yeah.
I've done it a
How
lot.
has
And
your
I've been.
experience in Nashville been? Like, I need to, when you moved here.
I think it's going to be interesting coming back, um, because I think I've been very quiet and very meek in rooms, knowing that I knew I deserved to be there, but I know people were wondering how I was there. Like at least somebody, I've had managers or people talk to me and say, your hair should be straight. Um, like, oh, it's good. You talk like good. Like you talk good. I'm like, what? Like like just the conversations that I've had with people in power in Nashville have had me feeling defeated, and like I had to fit into this box where, oh, you're a songwriter and you're black. There's only so many of you here. You're also a woman, and you're also not 20. So where do you fit? So as long as you're quiet and you just go in the room and you don't ruffle feathers, they'll keep letting you come in the room. And
Shit,
now
no
I
wonder
feel
I
like
don't have a
I want
career.
to ruffle as many feathers as I can. So I don't even know if I'm going to have people, like, I don't even know when I come back if people are going to say, you can come in the room, or be like, oh, no, not that Stephanie chick. Because I've let all my opinions come out, where for the first 2 years of being there, I stayed fairly quiet and I'm not a quiet human. I'm
Yeah.
very loud and I'm very opinionated.
I
and
love
I've and I've I pride myself on that. So it's interesting that something that I pride myself on, I camouflaged from all the people that I worked with for the most part, except for a couple like John Tucker, who you met recently. Like,
Oh,
I've been able to be my real self with
he's
a few people, but most people super camouflaged and super vanilled out, like very just like, I'm gonna make myself as digestible as possible
she's
so that
pizza.
I can rise, because that's what I felt like I needed to do. Like I can't rise unless I'm digestible. I don't want to be like stereotyped.
Right.
And
I also kind of want to turn that around and go, maybe you were just self-aware of knowing when to be quiet in a right is just wise to
mm-hmm,
just be in, that's something, because I mean, in a world of everybody wanting to have something to say, you just know when to shut up. Like that's kind of
mm-hmm.
like, I wish I would have learned that a long time ago. I'm always like, no, I have my idea. I have my idea.
Yes.
My melody. I want my melody. And then it kind of, you don't write a song because you're so busy fighting for the
Mm-hmm.
space. But I see that in a lot of people are going to look at your history of like, well, what have you done? Who have you worked with? I mean, that's just the thing with being an artist, and you love music so much, so you walk in a room and you're like, I'm ready to work, but then you got
Yeah.
to like, play that cool person. It's like, yeah, I do this all the time. Like, I'm so excited. You got to
Yeah.
play. But like, I get that. I mean, you're a new being. I mean, I think you being in California after this, like, you're going to come back here, and new people are going to be excited about the songs you're going to.
I'm
I want
excited.
to.
I'm finally excited to create again, to create again for myself.
Yeah.
I think this time and the movement and these multiple pandemics have made me know who I am and really double down on it and not be afraid. Kind of like freedom is not being scared and not having fear. And I'm like, I know who I am, so I can stand there if somebody else doesn't like it or if it makes somebody uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I know who I am, and I know the music I make, and I know the songs I like to sing, and I know like the artists that I admire. And some of those artists aren't what you would think. Like, I think I've talked
What
to you, like, I
artists?
love Julie Andrews. Like, I think Julie Andrews is a goddess. And I
He
think
is a
she
god.
is supreme. I think she's the best person.
Yeah.
I think she's the best human. I think
Your
Julie Andrews is
mom looks
president.
like Julie Andrews, right?
My mom looks exactly like Julie Andrews.
That's
Yes.
so special. That's
Yes. She looks like
amazing.
Julie Andrews. So it's kind of lucky. Like, I got to get raised by Julie Andrews. And like, she is, and she introduced me to her, and I just, I, I look at that. I look at Julie Andrews, and I look at my mom, and I see just perfection. I see and like an angelic kindness that I don't see in a lot of humans.
Yeah.
I think it just takes me back to a time of kindness. Whenever I get sad, I watch The Sound of Music. Even though it's a heavy movie, like when you really get down to it, it's
But
just,
look at that. It's the World War II and Julie Andrews shining bright.
and she's shining, and she's
Hello.
like dancing on a hill. I'm like,
It's eternal. It's eternal. Um,
yes.
I think that that's just the eternal. You know, this world is so able to say this is what's going on, but is it? Like right
Mm-hmm.
now, you're in California, you have your baby, and we have the news, and that's print. We have fonts, we have filters. But like, what are you going to believe today, and what are you going to
Yeah.
do about it today? It's like,
Yeah. I think what's great about coming back is that I think this time has, especially for me, rearranged priorities and rearranged people. And some people have exited, and some people I'm aware of where they stand. That doesn't mean I'm done with them, but I'm aware of how those energies flow. And then some people have risen up where I'm like, oh, I want to be around those people. I want to create with those people. I want to be in those rooms. Like, I don't feel the need to be in every room right now. I don't feel the need to be in every right with every person.
yeah,
I think that what's supposed to happen will happen, and the songs I'm supposed to write will come. But I don't think I would have gotten that if I didn't leave Nashville during COVID to come spend time with my niece and my sister and find my own quiet, where I feel very brave to say
mm-hmm.
everything I want to say.
Right.
Like, I have no fear or repercussion of an artist being like, I heard what you said, so I'm not going to work with you. I'll be like, okay,
Yeah, right,
that's
right.
okay. Whereas even 6 months ago, I would have been like, I can't say that. Be like, don't repeat that because I don't want them to hear. Now I'm like, repeat. Like, whatever I say, anybody can hear.
Right.
And I don't bash people, but I do have my opinions on how to be a good human
Mm-hmm.
and how to show up.
How
I
does
really
how
just
does
believe in
one
energy
show
pays
up?
for it.
Tell
Hmm?
me, tell me in your world, like what has made you feel really good when someone shows up in COVID? Tell me how to be, like what do you consider, like what warms your heart in these times besides your niece being so
My
beautiful?
well, my niece for sure warms my heart the most. But what I really like is I'm seeing who's checking in on me and
Mm-hmm.
who I'm wanting to check in on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not that some people I'm like don't want to, but I'm realizing who's coming to my heart right
Mm-hmm.
now, and I'm realizing who's in my space. And then looking at how, like, for my birthday, three of my friends came over and in the backyard, and we did a social distance thing. And one of them was very nervous about COVID. And I was like, allowing somebody to be nervous, allowing somebody to be uncomfortable and say, you just take what you need and you can go. So realizing that I'm just a vessel for people
Mm.
also to pass through.
Mm.
And that
Wow,
has
that's
allowed
nice.
me to be more humble.
Yeah.
And even a text means more now because I know we're all inundated and nobody wants to be on their phone 24/7, especially my friends with kids. And they have virtual school and kids are home all the time. And so to get a text from those people, I'm like, oh, you really just took some time to think of me.
Mm.
And I appreciate it. And it's especially because I'm not actively in Nashville right now. And so it's easy to be out of sight, out of mind. But I think my friendships are closer. At least a select group of them
I'm
are
learning that too.
closer. And I think they will become closer, especially when we're able to be around each other because we've built a better foundation. It's not superficial. Like we've really been like, oh, some stuff's going on. Like this happened or this happened. Like there's no noise to talk about anything but what's real.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I mean, even this, like I like that this space was created because how would this have happened,
Yeah, it would.
And
I
you're
mean,
magical. Like how would this magic have occurred without COVID?
it's all a gift. I mean,
Yeah.
truly, it's a gift.
Yeah.
It's a lot of painful. Like it's just I don't. It's a gift.
It is a gift. Do you
Yeah.
find like are you ready for us to all be all together? Are you enjoying this time like away? Like I still feel like we're a ways away from like 100% no Zoom rights. Like what are you looking forward to?
I don't know. I think everything is just kind of permanently changed. But I just think that, like, for instance, I went to Shelley Fairchild's birthday party, and Leroy Powell brought his kids, and the girls ran up. And normally I would be like running up to them, but kids are learning boundaries and personal space.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just like that separation of like, are you hugging? Like you have to ask someone if they're.
Yeah.
And then I just question. I just question everything. I don't like. I like. I. We know so much about. I was really afraid when the virus happened because a lot of the people that were just saying it's not real were my family. I was sorry, but I was like, "You're not listening. Please don't come up to my house." And you're not like. I mean, it was a hard time because the
Yeah.
language barrier was very misunderstood, and I was like kind of mentally breaking down. I
Mm-hmm.
cut my hair. I mean, I was breaking down anyway. Before COVID, I was going through a like bad mushroom haircut, cut my own hair. Everyone was
I let
concerned.
my sister cut my hair, so
Oh, that's nice.
that was a trust exercise.
That's so sweet. Just
With
recently?
kitchen scissors.
Oh, wow. My favorite.
That
I
was
like
like
to
week
get
3.
crunchy. That was in 2003.
No, that was week 3.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh, we're gonna be out of here. Cut my hair. And now
That's
5 months later, I'm like, okay.
that's so sweet. I love that.
I was like, I'm not going anywhere. Why not?
You're
I don't know. I think
wow.
that how you said, like, are we hugging? Are we not hugging? I went and saw one of my really good friends last weekend, and her and her son, and they've been socially distancing, and she's been working from home. And I got up to the door, and she was like, are you going to come through the house, like, or do you want to go in the backyard? And it's like this awkward conversation of like, where are you? Like, what are your boundaries that we would never discuss? And I was like, oh, I can come in through the house. Like because I also knew how seriously she's taking the pandemic. Like she's taking it extremely seriously. But then I have other friends who are like, want to hang out? And I'm like, no, I don't want to hang out with you. Not because I don't love you, but because I don't trust you, which makes me sad. But
Oh,
we have a
personally
different
being
belief system,
offended.
and it's hard to say that to somebody you love. But you're like, I don't trust you, and I have my niece, and I have other people that I care about that I can't put at risk.
I
Like I
think that
can't
that's
test it.
cool. I think that's fine. So I did a show like in this, and with Whiskey Wolves of the West, and Tim Jones, incredible force of nature, an alien, the freest of spirits. And you know, he takes it like he was wearing a mask, and it's like I get. I mean, I'm not breathing with the mask on, but it's like it's just it. I mean, I don't know where I've been either.
Yeah. Well, that's where it is. Like it's just knowing the boundaries and knowing what people believe. Like for me, I believe in science. I'm also a very touchy-feely person. I love hugs. Like I am such a hugging person. But I'm like, don't hug me because I don't know where you've been and I have to go to other people. It's like that glitter analogy. Like I don't know enough
But that's
to
the
make a
separation.
decision.
That's the reason why I'm crying right now. Is this conversation right now is like the questioning of, are we going to be like, that's a mourning thing. I'm learning to grieve. It's like, oh, we have to, it's hard enough to go out before the pandemic, and then are we going to be nice to each other? It's like another kind of dialogue, and it's
Mm-hmm.
so suffer. I mean, I don't like to live in fear.
No.
I'm not going to allow the pandemic to tell me, like, I will be wearing a mask like in grocery stores, and I'll be wearing, but like
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty safe
Yeah.
when it comes to the people. I mean, I'm not going to hang out with anybody that's I don't know. It's just teaching us how to judge. It's teaching us everything that Black Lives Matter is all a weird abstract
Well, I look at it like
time.
people who I was watching the protests of people that didn't want to wear masks. And people have the right to do what they want to do. Like, I mean, in the sense of if you want to protest, protest. I think you should wear a mask because I think science rules. But
Mm-hmm.
again, my opinion, and I'm judging. But I was watching that, and then I was watching like Black Lives Matter protests, and I was like kind of watching them on two different screens. And I was like, do you realize how like you're protesting for the rights because you feel suffocated, but this whole group of people has felt suffocated for hundreds of years. And you
Wow.
don't have the ability to have empathy for this group because you're so
Ooh.
worried about your rights. And I was like, there's the problem. Like you can't get outside of yourself to realize these other people are protesting more than masks. And I was hoping that that would like allow them to be like, oh, so you feel this like all the time. But it didn't necessarily do that because it takes a lot to change people's culture and their roots and who they are. But I just try to remind them, like, you're uncomfortable wearing a mask or you're uncomfortable that you can't sit large parties at a restaurant. Imagine if you come from a place where your parents couldn't even go to a restaurant because that's in my dad's lifetime. My dad came from the segregated South, like where he couldn't sit in the same area of a bus station with people that were white. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's not that long ago. So our
It's not.
rights, so we're feeling like our rights are being taken because we have to wear masks and we have to do certain things, but realize like that's nothing. Like when you in the big scheme of everything, like that's nothing because we have fought past farther. And that should be the reason you'd be like, okay, I get why you're saying Black Lives Matter because I'm getting annoyed with having to wear a mask and you were just trying like to get equal rights. Like I would hope it would bring some empathy. I'm still hopeful for it. I'm still it takes a lot. It takes a lot. And I am a very California girl living in the South with Southern parents. Like my parents are
Ooh.
Southern, but they left the South because of racism. So
So
um,
they don't live. Where do your parents live now?
they live in California.
Okay.
Um, but they're both from Arkansas.
Oh, it's
But my dad
awesome.
also lived in Chicago. My dad did the Great Migration, leaving the South. His mom did the Great Migration, leaving the South and going to Chicago for better opportunities. Um,
Right.
and then eventually ended up in the Bay Area. And then um, my grandmother left Arkansas when my mom was little because of racism and things. And they're white and they just didn't like the culture of Arkansas back
When
then.
was that? What year was that?
They left in the 60s, late 60s. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And then obviously my mom and dad, they never married, but my dad has two older kids and then he has me and my brother. And then I have two younger brothers and we're all mixed. So I was like, Dad, you just radical dating white women because we're all half black. I'm like, Dad, you are just a radical man. But I'm like, why did you ever marry these women? And I think part of that is because the culture in the 70s and 80s was still so divided, even in
Yeah.
California. Like now we see a lot of mixed race kids, but when I was growing up, there wasn't very many of us at all. And it's interesting. I'm going to do a podcast with my dad where he just talks about his whole life. I'm like, just tell me all your stories. It'll be like 4 hours long. I'll be like,
when is your podcast? When is this? When is your dad?
I'm going to start recording with him, I think next week. We're going to do it in like 3 parts because he just has so much wisdom.
That's awesome.
And so much. There's so much that I won't understand. I didn't grow up segregated. I grew up teased. I grew up.
You were teased?
I was teased. My teachers in elementary school called my hair Brillo pad. And I didn't even understand what they were meaning. Like they called it Brillo pad. My mom used to brush out my curls because she had no idea how to deal with curly hair. And my sister's Korean. So my sister has very different hair than I because she's adopted from Korea. So she has long, straight hair. And we're very different body types. So I grew up in a world where I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to look like. My dad did not raise me. My dad came back into my life when I was in my teens. And we have an extremely close relationship, but that's all because of racial tension. Because, you know, my mom passed away when I was very young, and he thought I would do better in a white family, I think, on some level. Like I'd have better opportunities. And that's sad. Like that's just undeniably sad. That's the world in my lifetime.
Yeah, when did your mom die?
Had to be made.
When did your mom die?
My mom died when I was 2. My mom died when I was 2 years old, and my grandma raised me, who also looks like Julie Andrews. So I call my grandma my mom. But my mom passed away when I was 2 weeks after my 2nd birthday. So it was a few weeks ago was the anniversary. So she passed away at 26 years old. So even now I look and I go, this world is crazy. This country is divided. But what a freaking blessing that I am here. And I've lived longer than my mom got to live. I've experienced more life. And I can tell the story of being a biracial woman in the Bay Area, which is now becoming more common, but it's just a different world that I come from than my kids will experience. I go, it's a blessing. It's a blessing, and that makes me hopeful. Like those pieces make me hopeful, but then it also makes me sad that in my dad's lifetime, he's had to live through like 2 civil rights movements, like because the first time wasn't enough. Like that now he's having to live in this time in his 70s, where he's seeing protests and people dying and things like that, and where he has to be concerned about my life. Like that saddens me because nobody wants to be concerned about their kids' lives, and that he's had to live through those over and over. Like that's just, I'm like, can we get it right? Because they say you're gonna keep getting tested until you pass, and I keep thinking we keep failing these tests, and that's why this stuff keeps coming up. Like, can we just pass the test? Can we just show that we're good humans? Can we love one another? Can we honor each other? Can we respect one another? Like, I feel like these are just the core values, which is why I love Julie Andrews, because I think she represents all those. She loves, honors, and respects.
Yeah. She was trying to be a nun, and then she decided to go shack up with Captain and the 7 kids. What will this day be like? I wonder. What will the future be?
I wonder. I love. One day we are just going to sit and watch this and just sing with both of our microphones.
Yes. Well, big time. When do you come back to Nashville? When do you come back to Nashville? When do you sing?
Right now my plan is mid to late September. I've looked at the numbers and they're going down. And so I am working on not being in fear, but also realizing I'm enjoying my time with my niece, and there's nothing pulling me back immediately to Nashville. So I'm going to enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, enjoy it. You're not
going to enjoy it because like you can't get that time back.
No.
And I'm like, Nashville's gonna be there. My home's there. Probably a little dusty, but there. Definitely a little dusty,
Oh, man.
but it's
After the
okay.
fourth year, it's fine. That's what Quentin Crisp says.
Yes,
I love Quentin Crisp.
I love it. So and I can do this from here, and I'm just excited for how many conversations and how we are having these conversations. Like, I'm excited that these conversations are where friendships are being rooted.
Mm-hmm.
And when you root in like goodness and honesty and truth and authenticity, good stuff blooms from that. It's good soil.
Mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
want to thank you so much for starting this conversation and to be talking with artists, because it's just good for me to see how other people are thinking without just screenshotting their story about, like,
Mm-hmm.
what to do. I like to see the face, and I like to see the words coming out of their mouth in real time. And I really
Yes.
appreciate you um, giving all the people that I want a voice to have a voice, because you can only, take a picture and say this is what you've been doing, but I want to hear what people are thinking, and I want to hear how they're coping, because it's a
Yes.
hard time, and it's a way to check in, and I just truly am so humbled to be talking with you right now, and I can't wait to see you face to face in
Oh,
Nashville
it's
whenever
going to
that.
be like somebody wrote in the chat,
I'll help
any
you clean
plans for our
your
West
house.
Jacques collaboration? I'm like, oh, we will collaborate.
Yeah,
Me and
we will
you.
collaborate. Yeah,
There will be some musical collaborations. Like, let's
100%.
just write a musical.
Okay.
COVID, the musical.
Okay. Did we get
It's gonna,
hearts? Who's putting hearts on us? I love
oh,
this. Hi
I
guys,
love,
thanks for joining in. Isn't she lovely? Hi
oh,
W King join. I've never done this. This is like
I
the third
know.
time
It's like, I love it. It's just it's like a confidence booster. I'm like, oh, okay. I love it. But I also love just connecting because I'm a talker, and I think people get what I'm wanting to say when I speak. And sometimes my words don't, when I type them out and I put a post, things get lost. Things get
Yeah,
lost. And I'm like, I like just one-on-one conversations. And the reason I started this was I wanted people to see the conversations, to know it's not hard to have conversations.
it's
And if we
empowering.
can start by elevating the conversation, then I think that's where we have the ability to affect change right now, in
Yeah,
just one another, in just loving one another. And
yeah.
I'm so thankful that you are in my tribe, and that you will I already know that you're going to come on again, and we're going to have more
I
conversations.
will
I already know.
anytime,
I like
anytime.
it's And I just, yeah, my heart's full. Like I said, I came on here sad and heavy, and I no longer feel heavy. I don't feel heavy now.
Anytime you feel sad, call me. I'll make you. I'll do so. I'll make you laugh with that keyboard. I've been having a great time. Just push a button. It's like, hello, you've reached the Emily West show. It's delusional over here, but it's funny.
It's fun. See, you know what? Little delusion never hurt
That's fun.
nobody. Never hurt
That's
nobody.
fun.
I Sometimes I just go, Ruby, do something for me. Ruby's my niece. I go, do something. And she started crawling, and I was like, see, you make me happy. You're
You
doing
start
things.
crawling.
She started crawling.
Where did she get her? Let's take her up from her nap. Get her from her nap.
I
I'll get
know.
her
I'm
from
like,
her nap.
wake her up. I
Look at
know.
that little wonder.
Oh, they're both napping. Our
They're
children are
both
napping.
napping.
I
Uh-huh.
know. She doesn't nap. Yeah, she's happy. I was like, go to sleep. Go to sleep and rest your head. Little Mary Poppins song that I sing to her, you know, because I love Julie Andrews. So obviously I sing her Mary Poppins to go to bed.
Will
So
you sing a Mary Poppins song for me as we I don't know what we
what is it?
almost
Like, like, don't rest your head. Don't lie down upon your bed. Though the moon drifts in the sky, stay awake, don't close your eyes. Though your pillow's soft and deep, though the world is fast asleep, you are not sleepy as you seem. Stay awake, don't nod and dream. Stay awake, don't nod and dream.
What? Start singing more. I gotta hear this. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my inner Julie. I just love her. I sing that to Ruby every day when I put her down to sleep. So,
I love that.
yes. And I love you. I
I
truly
love you, girl.
appreciate you in my
You're
world. And we're going to do so many more of these because I just think
good.
they're good for my, like, selfishly, they make me happy. So,
Anytime you call me, anytime. I love you and I appreciate you wanting to talk with me. I don't do anything really. I'm getting Netflix. I don't have anything going on.
I just got my water. So,
Yeah, I'm drinking a
and the
coffee. I can't get
California.
enough of this coffee that I've been pouring. Oh, and I
Oh,
got this cool new book. It's called The League of Extraordinary Funny Women, 50 Trailblazers of Comedy. I've been
ooh,
really excited about being a female comedian. Who knows that it,
yes.
you know,
Yes.
so
See, you'll be in the next edition of that book
maybe,
because you are a
yeah,
trailblazer. So,
you're
oh,
wonderful.
well,
Call me after this conversation.
oh, I will. I will. I love you so much.
I love you
I love
too.
you. So I'm
I
going to
love you
say
too.
goodbye, but I thank everybody for taking the time to watch. And if you came in late, I'll save it on my page so you can rewatch and just see this beautiful face. And by beautiful, I mean
Oh,
Emily's beautiful face. So,
y'all are great. Thanks for checking this conversation out. Bye, Stephanie. I love you,
bye. I
girl.
love you. Bye.
Bye.